All right, I know. Ban list came out yesterday. A lot of questions, a lot of anger, a lot of confusion. Maybe you didn't actually understand what it even meant. So, today, what I'm here to do is kind of explain what a ban list is and how they are, implemented in trading card games, why they're in trading card games, why a developer would kind of make these decisions, and really just do my best to guide you through kind of the step-by-step process of how a ban list can happen, why it would happen, and really just give you the base level understanding of why it's a tool that game developers can use. So let's get into it. So, what is a ban list? A ban list is an official list of cards that are not allowed to be used in certain formats of a trading card game. It's created and updated by the game's developers or organizers to keep the game fair and fun. So, why do cards get banned? Cards are usually banned for one or more of the following reasons. The first being too powerful. A single card or combo dominates the game, making it unfun or unbalanced. If a card creates something that is too consistent, if a deck wins the same way every game, or a variety of strategies go out the window, basically anything that one deck is doing that other decks cannot, and if that deck is doing something way more consistently than others. If a card is too fast, if the game ends before both players get a turn to breathe, it stifles the meta as well. If it's too easy to abuse, some cards enable exploits like infinite loops or lock your opponent out of the game completely, similar to a friendly squirrel used to do back in Ursula's Return metagame. Of course, the final reason is the health of the meta. When one deck appears in 50 to 70% of tournaments, it reduces the diversity of creativity. That's exactly what happened. That last note of a deck being 50% of a meta. In our game, we don't have a specific deck that's 50% of the meta, but we had an ink that was over 50% of the meta game in majority of the tournaments over the last 5 weeks. And in all honesty, it's been dominant ever since the talks of what the Sapphire cards were in the reveal season during Arcade's Island revealed. So the developers acted quickly and made sure that they were able to implement this ban list to really create a more diverse metagame and getting away from that 50% rate that becomes a bit problematic. So let's talk about the types of restrictions that a ban list could be made out of. So, of course, the different types of ban lists are flat out being banned, which is what happened today. Can't be used at all in a single format. It was noted today that the cards were banned and no longer allowed in core constructed format. In the past, cards were errated, the card that stays legal, but its texture mechanics are changed, just like how Bucky was errated in the Ursula's Return metagame. Another option is a restricted list. And what a restricted list normally means, you can only have one copy of a card that's allowed in your deck. So instead of banning Hiram or banning Fortisphere, they could have said, hey, you can only play one. The other idea is limited. What that would mean is that usually one or two copies are allowed depending on the game. In this particular game, a card is already limited in the form of glass slippers, saying that you can only play up to two copies of this in your deck. They could have technically done that for these cards as well. So, of course, the question becomes, what is the impact on players and the game? Well, there are several things that ends up happening here. Deck changes. Players need to rework and rebuild those Sapphire decks to include new cards and no longer include cards like Hiram or Fortisphere. Card values changes. The prices of ban cards often drop while alternatives may spike. Today, as a kind of reaction to the ban list, we had cards like Doc, Bold Knight, and Diablo, Devoted Herald, both spike in prices as players were buying them out, thinking that these were going to be the cards that most likely replace as the top tier decks in the metagame. Of course, the meta will get shaken up. The competitive scene evolves. New decks rise and old ones fall. This is a big deal as well. The whole point, in all honesty, of this type of thing is realistically to just give us the ability to kind of be more creative, kind of just give us that option to really start building other decks again. For the last 5 weeks, Sapphire's been the most dominant ink in the game because it just had everything. And not only did it have everything, it had the best options for card draw and card advantage as well. This ban basically creates an even playing field again as kind of a reset button for the set 7 metagame. Really good news for all kind of just like deck creators out there because they feel like they can probably get into the workshop and start getting the job done again. for those of you that don't understand a ban list, there are definitely some examples from popular games. Magic the Gathering bans cards in all of its formats: standard, modern, legacy, vintage. They even sometimes have suspensions. Yu-Gi-Oh uses a complex forbidden or limited list that's updated quarterly. So every 3 months, they update this list on that type of rotation. Pokemon TCG bans cards only in certain formats and rarely, but rotates sets regularly. Lorcana is kind of this first ideation of what this ban list could look like for Lorcana. Currently, it would seem that it's really up to the Pokemon TCG idea where we may have gotten our first bans. It's possible that this is maybe also leading to a rotation similar to Pokemon. So it is one of those, like, what that means. So what it really means for the difference between bans and rotations is that today, as of today, April 8th, these cards are banned and will no longer be legal for Disney Lorcana core constructed play in competitive metagames. It states here that, you can still play this at home with your friends and things like that, as long as they don't care that you're playing it, or in multiplayer, as an example, if you ever go to your shop and you have multiplayer, things like that. Obviously, if you do a chaos limited thing and you have Hyrims and Fortifear in your sealed decks, they're clearly legal there too. They're only banned in core constructed play. Now, what does it mean if there was a rotation similar to Pokemon? That means, generally speaking, a number of sets come out, and then the game has a new set comes out and kind of rotates away from previous sets. So as an example, let's say sets 1 through 6 came out. When set 7 came out, maybe they made the idea that we would rotate sets 1 and 2, and therefore only sets 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 would be legal in the current play. A lot of talk about rotation coming up. Generally speaking, around the 2-year mark of games is a pretty common time for rotations to happen. So it's very possible that we get to a future that in sets 8 or 9, maybe set 10, we get a rotation for Disney Lorcana as well, as we're approaching the 2-year mark for Disney Lorcana. A ban list is how a game keeps its magic from turning into mayhem. It helps maintain fairness, shake things up, and make sure no single deck rules the kingdom forever. I'm a firm believer that today's bans were great for the game. I'm a firm believer that this will bring creativity back to the land. I know that there's a lot of, recourse to this very early on. Maybe a lot of players don't understand what the ban list really is, why it happened. Maybe you're new, you've never heard of it before. I'm hoping that I was able to kind of explain what that was to you in this video. If you don't obviously understand it fully, please hit me up in the comments, join the Discord, ask questions there as well, as we are more than happy to kind of guide you through this change and really understand that it can be a lot for new players. I think it's important to understand that ban lists in general are made for the health of the game and kind of just the length of time in which it's meant to be played. So right now, there was a mistake made. Ravensburger admitted to it, saying, hey, we might have missed this one. No one's perfect, and we're not really asking them to be. In all honesty, what we really should be excited for is the idea that they were willing to admit they were wrong and willing to make a change that no designer really wants to do. Ban lists are not easy. Erratas are not easy. It's very hard for a developer to kind of admit that they made a mistake. So the fact that Ravensburger did and gave us nearly 2 hours in Discord of explanation as to why they made those things is huge. So ban lists for me are an A+. Rotations are an A+. Erratas, not so much. Not a big fan. I don't like the idea of changing what a card reads while it's in print and you can't really see it. To me, erratas are much more made for like patch updates in a game you might be playing, like in World of Warcraft, when a class gets a patch update or a certain ability on that class gets an update, or in a digital card game. It's very easy to rewrite cards in a digital card game. But in a paper game, it's not very easy. It's really difficult to explain to a new player that might show up to your league night that the card they're playing doesn't actually do what it says it does. It's really no fun for anybody. So for me personally, I think ban list is the way to go, and I'm very excited that is what we got today. And I hope that this was a little bit of a help for you guys that maybe not understood exactly what that was. So if you like this type of stuff, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy this type of content, it's a big deal to me. Hopefully it did help you. Of course, if you enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you're new here, make sure you hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.